Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely wild. We're looking at how a single, highly controversial remark by a top official accidentally ignited a massive, viral, and completely satirical movement in India. It's the Cockroach Party. We're going to look at the data, the timeline, and how an internet meme actually spilled over into real-world civic action. Let's get right into it. So what happens when you call unemployed youth cockroaches? Well, that is exactly the question kicking off one of the most fascinating digital and sociological events of 2026. Back in mid-May, the entire internet discourse in India was basically hijacked by this brand new parody group. But to understand how a joke became a nationwide talking point, we really need to look at the spark that lit the fuse. Which brings us to Section 1, the spark and the explosion. The ultimate breaking point was this specific judicial comment. During a Supreme Court hearing on May 15, 2026, Chief Justice Surya Kant reportedly said that there are youngsters, like cockroaches, who don't get employment, become social media activists, and just start attacking everyone. Now, it's absolutely crucial to note here that the Chief Justice issued a clarification the very next day. He stated his words were misquoted and were actually aimed at people entering the legal profession with fake degrees, not the youth of the country. But you know how the internet works, right? The original quote had already spread like wildfire among millions of frustrated young people. And the sheer scale of the reaction, literally unprecedented. Within days, a 30-year-old named Abhijit Dipke founded the satirical Cockroach Party, or the CJP. And get this, the movement hit a staggering 17 million Instagram followers in under a week. To put that massive number into perspective for you, the CJP rapidly blew right past the official social media accounts of India's major ruling and opposition parties, including both the BJP and the Indian National Congress. Just incredible. All right, moving on to Section 2, satire versus reality. So, how did you actually join this movement? You just had to meet these entirely satirical membership criteria. Basically, you had to be unemployed, lazy, well, physically lazy anyway, chronically online for at least 11 hours a day, and you had to be a professional ranter. It's such a brilliant narrative move, honestly. They took an intended insult and flipped it into an empowering badge of honor for the digitally native youth. They essentially said, yep, we're cockroaches, and guess what? Cockroaches survive everything. But here is where you get the real whiplash. Look at their actual manifesto. Behind the whole joke of being lazy is a surprisingly precise, deadly serious set of demands. It heavily reflects this deep, systemic, anti-establishment sentiment. We're talking about banning post-retirement seats for chief justices to maintain judicial independence, demanding 50% women's reservation in parliament, and calling for strict anti-terror laws against officials who delete legitimate votes. So clearly, this wasn't just internet trolling. It was a highly specific political critique, cleverly wrapped in a really funny package. Let's look at Section 3, visualizing the crisis. To really grasp why this took off, we have to look at this staggering number. India's graduate unemployment rate currently sits at 29.1%. That means almost a third of all graduates simply cannot find jobs. So that joke on their website about being unemployed, it's not just a clever persona, it's a harsh daily reality for a massive segment of the country. I mean, India produces over 8 million graduates every single year, and the economy just hasn't been able to absorb them. And beyond just unemployment, the CJP really tapped into a powder keg of underlying issues. This whole thing perfectly coincided with nationwide protests over the NEET UG medical exam taper leaks. They were calling out extreme wealth inequality, and really, they just captured the generational fatigue of a demographic. Over 700 million young people under the age of 30, by the way, who feel completely alienated from the formal political system. They're navigating this space where direct public dissent feels increasingly difficult. Which brings us to Section 4, memes spill into reality. This is where things get surreal but remarkably effective. What started as a digital pressure valve actually turned into real-world civic action. Volunteers completely owned that cockroach label. They literally dressed up in giant insect costumes, grabbed gloves and garbage bags, and went out to clean the heavily polluted Yamuna River in Delhi. The Yamuna has been choking on industrial waste and untreated sewage for decades, and by doing this, they brilliantly used satire to force national attention onto Delhi's pollution crisis. It really begs the question, if a viral joke can mobilize citizens to clean a river, what on earth could collective civic action achieve next?
And the offline footprint just kept expanding. They secured over 350,000 official member signups online. They started raking in high-profile endorsements across the entire political and tech spectrum, from parliamentarians to the co-founder of Hotmail. There were even serious reports of CJP supporters considering fielding an actual candidate in Bihar's upcoming Bankapur Assembly by-election. That is a massive, massive leap from a parody account to a literal electoral ballot.
Next up, Section 5, Tracking the Chaos and Rivalries. As you'd expect with any viral internet culture, the ecosystem quickly expanded. When a brand identity is this strong, it's going to track competitors. And that gave birth to a rival parody group, the National Parasitic Front. While the CJP positioned itself as the voice of the resilient, unemployed underclass, the National Parasitic Front took a slightly different angle. Their slogan was, "We do not latch on, we transform." And they focused on spoofing systemic corruption from the inside out. It basically turned social media into this highly engaging, unofficial coalition season of internet politics, where users were actively debating which fictional party best represented their real frustrations. Just look at how incredibly fast this all escalated. The original remark happened on May 15th. The CJP was founded the very next day. Fast forward to May 21st, and authorities officially withheld the CJP's X account in India following a legal demand. But completely proving their own point about cockroach-like resilience, the founders instantly launched a backup handle, basically telling their followers, "You really thought you could get rid of us? Law." Finally, Section 6, the future of digital protest. So what's the big takeaway here from a communications standpoint? Well, the Cockroach Party is an absolute masterclass in meme native marketing. This is content built from the ground up for social sharing. It relies entirely on identity, not expensive ad campaigns. By creating an identity that millions of young people instantly recognized, the frustrated, unemployed, very online youth, they turned collective anger into rapid community building. They proved, without a doubt, that you can mobilize a massive community without spending a single dime on advertising. Which leaves us with this final thought. Critics will argue that this is just digital theater, something that's going to fade away as quickly as it trended. But supporters? They argue it's already changed the political discourse, successfully engaging a demographic that traditional parties have really struggled to reach. So, what do you think? Will this resilient swarm eventually fade into internet history, or have they permanently rewritten the rules of modern political protest? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.